Hello and welcome to Chapter 2, Getting Your Plan Started from the Successful Business Plan Sequences Strategies 8th edition from Rhonda Abrams. This chapter, we are going to be looking at getting your plan started. In the previous chapter, we were talking about what it takes to have a successful business and just some of the basic concepts and looking at the different business elements that takes to start your own business and of course getting that process started. So one of the venture capitalists here, Andrew Anker, says you need to have numbers. If I ask you a question, you better know the answer. If you say you're gonna sell shoes with people to people with very wide feet, you better know the number of people with wide feet. What he's trying to say, and just like Mr. Wonderful in Shark Tank, the show on television, is that you have to have your numbers. You have to know them. For example, if you're saying I'm going to reach a target market in the rural area, they're like, oh, what do you mean by rural areas? Is there a number of towns you're looking at? Is there a number of people you're looking at? You have to be specific with that. In order to do that, you have to start a process, right? In the business plan process, you lay out the business concept and you gather data, right? It's one of the most important parts. In order to plan out a very compelling business plan, you have to have your data. And there are different ways of collecting that data that's going to help your business plan. So let's start that process. What is your statement, right? There needs to be a sporting goods store to serve the city of Chandler, right? That is a very thorough business statement that someone who wants to start a sporting goods store serving that local community. What are the challenges with starting a sporting goods store in this particular city of Chandler? And these challenges are the challenges that you should ask yourself as well when you make a business statement, whether that's starting up a business consultancy group that serves the IT industry in the state of Illinois or the state of Maryland, right? What are the challenges associated with it? For example, one of the first questions you should ask for is if you were starting this company, this sporting goods company in Chandler, how many sporting goods stores are there now? So in your 25-mile radius of where you are going to have this sporting goods store, how many other sporting goods stores are? So if you look, for example, within a 25-mile radius, there's 10 other sporting goods stores. That's very tough competition to have. Unless you're going to be a very niche sporting goods store, perhaps it's not a good idea to have another sporting goods store within a 25-mile radius. You're going to be competing a lot because someone is going to have to shut down, or you're going to have to be competing on price, or you're going to have to have very, very good service. How much business do they have, right? For example, you're going to probably have to calculate and find out yourself how much business is going to that sporting goods store. Are residents currently dissatisfied with the current stores? So are people dissatisfied with the current services? I mean, in today's day with technology, you can look up specific stores within a 25-mile radius, and most people write Google reviews on the company. So you can check out the Google reviews, for example, to see if people are dissatisfied with the current stores. What are the demographic trends in Chandler? For example, if the majority of demographic trends show that it's, senior citizens who are 65 and older, who knows if the sporting goods store is going to be a good service for you, right? Because, do a lot of senior citizens go out to sporting goods stores? What are the trends in the sports good industry nationally, right? Nationally, you should check out what are the sports that people are buying equipment from. If there's a sport that's in a decline, perhaps it's probably not a good idea to put your resources in that specific sport. These are similar questions you should ask for when you're starting your business. What are the challenges on that? Gathering the information, as I mentioned in the previous slide, in today's technology world that we live in with so much data available, it's not that difficult to get the information. What is difficult is ciphering the information that is useful for you. There's so much data and so information that you can spend so much time collecting the information, but not knowing what to do with it. So but you have to get accurate information. So you have to get information that's reasonable and that's equitable and that it's appropriate. If you're new to the industry of business management, take more time. So if you're new to this, you have to take your time to do the research. One very helpful tool is if you go to the public library, or if you're in college, if you go to your library, there's always someone designated as a business librarian. A lot of libraries have like librarians who are specifically focused on a topic. So it happens the majority of public libraries, depending how big it is, they may have an individual who focuses on business topics, and they can guide you in the right way of where to find research on these industries. Uh, before you get all in a muddies with specific industry reports, seek general information first. Don't try to exhaust yourself in research. Just find the basics of what you need to be able to find the numbers. So don't spend good quality time, but don't overspend your time that you're going to lose sight of what you need to do. Again, there are so many resources out there, both free and or inexpensive, and actually there are some pretty expensive resources as well. The first, of course, free resource is search engines. Google, Bing, and other search engines as well. AppSco would be a research engine. Newspapers, a lot of newspapers and PR articles, have paywalls, or should I say paywalls. So you're probably gonna have to either subscribe or pay for that newspaper article. Government data is free, so there is government data out there that you can access as well. So in the textbook there is starting on page 23 of this of 8th edition. You can look at the different government resource and statistics. So, for example, the NAICS codes is a great resource. U.S. Census Bureau is another great resource, and that's really going to tell you information about location, the economic census, the county business patterns, the data, census, quick facts, for example, is another good one that you can look at. Chambers of Commerce sometimes have some really good resources. There's industry studies and publications. Now, of course, those industry studies and publications, most of the time they're going to be have a paywall, so you're going to have to pay good money for it. I honestly wouldn't. If you're starting a business, I would not encourage you to pay for an industry study or publication at the current moment. They run pretty expensive. Try to get as much free information as you can. Later on down the road, once your business is booming and growing, perhaps you can buy an industry report, but not at the moment. Research services, you can find those. There are free research services. Again, ask a librarian for those resources. Universities have really good resources that you can check out. Um, Again, company websites, that's a good way to find out about your competitors. And again, as I mentioned, search engines. As I mentioned, some of these are really good starts. There's a lot of trade associations. So in the industry you're at, there are trade associations or groups associated with them. For example, if you're going to start a pizza shop, there are trade associations related to pizza shops, pizza restaurants. So check those out. Again, there's the U.S. Census Bureau. There's one thing the U.S. government does very well is collecting data. So the census website is a really good start to get information from. Again, libraries, public libraries, and university libraries also provide great resources. The great thing about university libraries is that as a student, you can access that information for free. I mean, it's the fees you pay for, so you might as well take advantage of that information. There is a lot of trade industry associations, over 35,000 in the U.S. alone. So almost any industry that you're getting into has some type of trade or industry associations. And if you look them up on your on the website, they can provide some great resources for information you're looking for. For example, is the industry going up or down, stagnant? What's the current? What are people currently doing in that industry or that trade? Also, there's paid research services. Again, if you're starting out your business, if you're a college student, I don't recommend you do a paid research service. You do as much free as you can, but if you have the resources, go ahead. Um, Historical performance of your company, right? Existing businesses need the following, like for example, what's past sales, how much have they been doing, what's the present past trends in the cost of sales, profit margins on product lines. So to conduct your market research, personal observation is probably the easiest. What that means is going and sitting at your competitor's location or visiting it and see how many people come through in a day during specific hours or when is the busy period. Now, don't be very obvious that you're doing the research. Blend in and just take notes, right? For example, if you're going to start a coffee shop, in your community, go to a potential competitor, sit in their coffee shop, and see how many people come in and out of the coffee shop. What tends to be the busiest moments for that coffee shop? That way, what's the busy times. Informational interviews. You can do interviews, but that's going to be difficult because people are going to wonder what you're interviewing them for. You can have a focus group, and that of course is going to run you money. But a focus group basically is you bring a group of individuals and you ask them questions just to get them to answer, to see what are their relationships or what is the information or intel on a specific product or service. Again, learn from other businesses and talk to the competition. I mean, most people, competition is open to talking to you unless you're directly competing against them. So, for example, if you're going to open a coffee shop in a specific village, perhaps your competition that's down the block is probably not going to talk to you. But if you talk to a coffee shop owner, perhaps in a different state, or someone who is like hundreds of miles away from you, they may talk to you because they'll give you some insights as to what it takes to run a coffee shop. Again, there are many accessible market research resources out there. I highly encourage you to check those out. Um, Potential suppliers. There are entrepreneurship groups, banks and real estate agents, universities, chambers of commerce. Really have some really great resources for you that you can check out. Once you obtain that information, you're gonna have to evaluate the data. So data that was provided 20 years ago is probably not reliable. A good theory or a good sense is research and data from the last 5 years is pretty good to look at. So information and data from the last 5 years is still really relevant. And of course, translate your data if you have to into dollars or whatever it may cost, or figure out for inflation. Like if you look at data from 5 years ago, you may have to consider inflation, and figuring out inflation is pretty easy. Just go online and find an inflation calculator, so you can determine what the current cost is compared to 5 years ago. If you're looking at research from 5 years ago. Use the most conservative figures for projections. I always kind of say as well as to it may cost more, add a 20% rate to it because it may change. One of the ways that before you lay out your entire plan for your business plan, one of the ways that you can start is doing a quick feasibility analysis. All right, once you find your research, feasibility analysis is a chance to begin to flesh out your business idea, to see which components are already in place to make it possible. Again, Doing a feasibility analysis is your chance to open your eyes and ask some tough questions. So, how does this differ from a business plan? In a feasibility analysis, you're just looking at a few of the components, like what's your vision for your business, challenging your concept, identifying which components are in place to make it realistic, and recognizing the biggest obstacles you're likely to face. So you're really, with the feasibility analysis, it's the beginning of your business plan and a question and to your questions and exploring. Uh, there is a feasibility analysis if you look in your textbook on page 39 and 40 of it. Oh, sorry, on page 39, and you can look at the feasibility analysis worksheet to answer those questions. Like, for example, is your industry, is it economically healthy? Is it new and expanding? Is characterized by a large number of competitors rather than a few entrenched large companies? Is able to withstand downturns, economic cycles? Has positive forecasts for the immediate future? Again, asking these questions and checking those out to see. One of the best ways to, and before you launch your full business plan, is when you do a quick feasibility analysis. It'll determine whether or not you should move forward with that idea or not. Another famous tool, and this has been going on for a few years now, is the business model canvas. You can go on Google and look at what a business model canvas is, and basically, in a sense, it's a one-page worksheet that has a visual format that you write your business idea for a product or service, and you think about the different considerations in each box. So what's your value proposition, key competitors, key partners, your costs, your revenue streams, customer acquisition, how are you going to get your customers, any partners. So asking various questions and filling out those boxes. Again, I mentioned the value proposition. So what value do you bring to the customer? So filling out those boxes is kind of a way to look at whether or not there may be a potential business moving forward. Um, Now, it doesn't substitute for the business plan, but it is a good start for the business plan, filling out a business model canvas. And that is it for this chapter 2, getting your plan started. Again, you have a number of resources available in the book. There are some number of websites that you can start looking at for your research. Again, there are free resources. Start off with the free resources at first. Get as much information as you can. Cite for the information to see what's available. Do a quick feasibility analysis or business model canvas before you move on to filling out creating the full business plan. Again, this is chapter 2, getting your plan started, from the Successful Business Plan Sequence of Strategies, 8th edition, from Rhonda Abrams.